All right, welcome guys to Dynasty Talks with Wolffield Guns and
3D Icicle Freeze. What's up, guys?
today we are going to start the first episode in our series, a wonderful series that we've been waiting to bring out.
Oh my God.
8 years or 8 months in the making.
Feels like 8 years, that's for sure.
It does feel like 8 years. It really has felt like 8 years. I feel like I've matured so much. You know, I was in high school, now I'm in college. It's like a whole new world.
I wish I could say the same.
But yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna start this series with not really a conversation about something specific in the games, but we're gonna start with our favorites in the Dynasty Warriors games, just to kind of introduce the series and introduce ourselves as Dynasty gamers and Dynasty YouTubers. And well, if you want to get started, we've got a couple topics and sections set out. We're going to go over our favorites from each section, and then we're going to go into some runner-ups. And I'm going to let Icicle Freeze go first with his favorite army. I know you had a different order in mind, but I completely forgot what it was, and I've got mine up over here. So
All good, all good. Alright, so, sure. My favorite army is actually Jin. For years, my favorite army was Shu, and when I first played Dynasty Warriors 8, believe it or not, Jin immediately overtook that. It's odd because I played, obviously, Dynasty Warriors 7 before Dynasty Warriors 8, but Jin made more of an impact in Dynasty Warriors 8 on me than 7, believe it or not.
no, yeah, I can see it. Depth of characters, you know, they're deep in the roster.
Absolutely. I mean, they really, like... They really make Jin out to be like this new, fresh, powerful army, and so it immediately became my favorite one. So, what is your favorite army?
My favorite army is, it's actually Wu, and that's kind of a weird thing to say as a Dynasty Warriors gamer, because Wu is by far the most insignificant in the series. It's pretty sad to say, but early on, I'm definitely an old school gamer. I have not really touched the new games as much as I would like to, with the exception of Empires, you guys may have noticed by now, but Wu just, it really... I'll tell the story a little bit more when we get to character, because he does have something to do with Wu, but it's something that I started out with, and just their whole story was so inspiring, and I could get behind every character, whereas with Shu... I love the characters in the roster, and the story was great, but I didn't like how they tried to portray good versus evil with Liu Bei and Cao Cao, because I'm a huge book nerd, and I read the book, and they were both kind of douchebags, to be completely honest. One might have been more than the other, but Liu Bei, like, punted his kid once. I mean, it was...
Oh, wow.
It was pretty bad. That might have been from the TV series. I don't even know, but I really... And then Jin, I think it has to do with the fact that I haven't touched the new games as much as I would like to. I would definitely come around to Jin. I like Jia Chong and his weapons. I know you're in love with him, and if I had to make a prediction, he's probably going to come up later in this episode. But definitely going to have to touch around with him more, but I'll get into Wu later. Don't you worry. I'm just breaking the ice with this. So go ahead. What are your runner-ups for Army? Or I guess runner-up.
Yeah, I only have one runner-up for this section. Shu is actually my one runner-up. As I said before, I guess it's self-explanatory, but again, for years, from when I started in Dynasty Warriors 4 all the way up until Dynasty Warriors 7, Shu was my favorite army, and then just recently in Dynasty Warriors 8 did Jin take over, so...
No, yeah, absolutely. I love Shu. I really do like Shu. And if
I
I had
know.
to pick some runner-ups, I just love the depth of roster of both Shu and Wei, and so it's really hard for me to pick. I'm sure I would love Jin after
Oh my
7.
God,
7
you
is the
would.
only exposure I had to Jin, so they didn't have such a good taste on me, but once I get around to playing 8 XL, I'll probably definitely fall in love with them too. But I cannot pick a runner-up. I know it's hard to say that in a favorites video, but I just can't pick a favorite.
I totally get that. And by the way, just really quick, I want to explain. If I don't mention, like, obviously, like, it should be, like, self-explanatory again, but, like, I love Wei and Wu. I just, of course, like, my runner-up was Shu.
No,
so.
it's definitely a favorites video, because there's a reason we're both Dynasty gamers. It's because we like probably just about everything about it. This is probably the hardest favorite list I've ever made about anything.
Yes, me too. Absolutely.
So, you want to go ahead and introduce the next one?
Sure. How about we do favorite weapon? Why not?
All right. Ironically, that's the next thing on my list too. What do you know? Maybe we did synchronize. But I guess I'll go first this time. And my favorite weapon, I definitely did go form over function. I really like the way the great sword looks. And it's super slow. It became a terrible weapon in 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved Guan Ping because I know he was like the first character to really get the giant sword. Him and Ma Chao, I think Ma Chao had one in 6. And
Yes.
I just thought it was the coolest thing that they were throwing around this giant sword. And like some of the, like, you know how they do the cool evolutions later on
Yes.
with all the weapons. I get lost in all that, and I never really unlock all those weapons. It's pretty sad, but I just like the way the great sword just got like cooler and cooler and cooler.
You know, I have to say, just real quick, it's actually pretty good in Dynasty Warriors 8, so...
No, yeah, I fear people just hate it for some reason, you know? I bring it up and people are like, ugh. And they made it a generic weapon. I'm like, how is this generic? It's the coolest thing ever.
I think Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires and 8 just made it... I think they made it really well, but...
I'll have to play with it some more. Alright, so what is your favorite weapon?
This was a tough one for me because... I've gone through like phases where I just love certain weapons, but Yui Jean's dual hooked blades. Yui Jean obviously entered the establishment in Dynasty Warriors 8, so whenever you get around to Extreme Legends, I can't wait till you play as Yui Jean because this weapon is just so cool in, you know, presentation. I mean, it is just such a cool looking weapon. And the best part is it's very fast. Like, it's very fast paced. You just go around the field slashing and destroying enemies at fast paces, and it is so cool.
To me, it kind of looks like a crowbar, to be completely honest. Like you swing a giant crowbar. It's cool. It's definitely cool as hell, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, they're very, like, well, that's why I like them so much, because they're very unique looking. They're not something very common, like a spear or something. So, I really like this one a lot.
Alright. What else we got? Runner-up for weapons. What is your runner-up?
Some runner-ups I had was Yujin's War Trident. I mean, how ironic, Yui Jin and Yujin. They're practically the I used to confuse them a lot. Yujin's War Trident in Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires, and Extreme Legends, of course, is just really, really good. It's really powerful. It is like a halberd, so it's kind of generic, but at the same time, all the moves are so cleanly, like, done. Like, he is just so good at crowd clearing. It's really cool. And then actually, one more I have is Zhang Liao's Golden Wyvern from Dynasty Warriors 5. I really like when Zhang Liao also had a halberd, and or a spear rather, and I just thought that was so cool, and I really thought that his weapon was really awesome in that game. So what about yours?
It's funny you mentioned Zhang Liao, actually, because my runner-up, I've only got one. I could go into others like the curved sword. That's kind of more me as a samurai fanboy thing. It's not really that good in the games. But my genuine runner-up in this category would be the twin axes. And this has to do, it's a perfect blend of form and function. They look pretty damn cool swinging around 2 axes. Like, you know, how is that not cool? Zhang Liao, every cutscene he did with those twin axes was like, it got me on my feet. Like, yeah, kick some ass, Zhang Liao. And they're actually really good weapons. They've got the crowd clearing. I mean, I'm afraid of Zhang Liao when he goes swinging them at me. You know, I'm almost as afraid of him with those as I am with Lu Bu, Mr. Scary.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I love them. And, you know, they evolve. They get cooler and cooler. I can't say I was a huge fan of some of the evolutions in, I think, 7. They got a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But in general, I think it's a pretty damn cool weapon. It beats the hell out of, like, the sword. I like the sword. I especially like the older versions of the sword, like Elder Sword with Zhou Yu, and Sun Jian had some cool thing.
Right.
Like a wolf blade or something. But at some point, especially with 8, they introduced, like, 7 or 8 variations of the sword, and some of them were pretty bad. The general sword, in my opinion. I mean, some of them were pretty bad, and I think between the two of us, we picked a pretty nice blend of the interesting things they added and some of the non-generic weapons. I mean, obviously the spear, the sword, they're good, they're common, especially in the older games. But like, come on, it's Dynasty Warriors. You're in it for the cool shit, you know?
Exactly.
Stuff you don't see in all the other games. You don't see this in Call of Duty. No twin axes in Call of Duty.
Thank God. And believe it or not, though, Call of Duty does have like melee weapons, but yeah, thankfully they don't have all these crazy things. 'Cause that's what makes this game so special.
Oh yeah.
All right, so what are we thinking about next?
How about character? Who's your favorite character overall in Dynasty Warriors?
All right, can I just say this was so difficult for me to do. This was so difficult, but believe it or not, when it came down to it, my favorite character is Zhuge Liang.
Oh, I put money on Jia Chong.
It's funny you say that because Jia Chong was my favorite character for a really long time. But I recently on PlayStation they have something called PS Now, and it allows you to stream older games. And I saw that Dynasty Warriors 7 was on there. And so I've actually been playing Dynasty Warriors 7 again. And I never realized, but Zhuge Liang is the total backbone of Shu. I mean, he totally created Shu. I mean, don't get me wrong, Liu Bei is the leader and his, his benevolence and the people loved him.
Right.
But Zhuge Liang is what really, he's the one who really set it together. And I think that is just so cool that he's actually considered one of the best military strategists to ever live, even though his country didn't win, but just what he had to work with was just so impressive. So, definitely Zhuge Liang, he's my favorite character.
Okay. I could get behind that. And it's really cool that you mentioned that and why you picked your favorite character, because that had a little bit to do with why I picked my favorite character. I know you said that he was the backbone of Shu, and I can tell you that whoever wrote Romance of the Three Kingdoms was definitely a huge Zhuge Liang fanboy. Because trust me, Shu seemed totally incompetent in that story without him.
Right.
Like he was such a genius, and it's hard to portray that in a game like Dynasty Warriors. Dynasty Warriors is hack and slash.
Right.
You don't really see the smaller things he does. The debates he had with the scholars, stuff I don't even think they put in the games.
Yeah.
But he was and for me, and I guess of course you too, as college students, we kind of admire smart, intelligent people that can win without fighting.
That's exactly right.
And for me, that had a little bit to do with the character I picked, and you'll see in a second. But now it's time for my old sob story about how I got into Dynasty Warriors. Technically, I had begun this game with Dynasty Warriors 4 way back when I was a youngin', but I really got into the series with one of my friends, and this was not really a stepbrother, but he could have been. He was technically like in that category, and I was young and I had stars in my eyes. He was a couple years older, and I wanted to play all these games with him, and I always did whatever he said. He was like, all right, plays this guy. I was like, okay, I will. And he made me play as Zhou Yu. And I used to always play as Zhou Yu, and I've always been really big into anime, and Zhou Yu is like the cliche anime badass that you look up to. He's super smart. He's supposed to be that handsome, devilish guy.
True.
I just loved everything about him. His physique, he was loyal to his best friend. He was super smart, the most intelligent guy there.
Absolutely.
And I remember I got into the game RuneScape. I'm sure you know.
Oh, I love RuneScape.
And that was a shameful 8 years or so of my life where I spent most of my time playing RuneScape. It was sad. It was embarrassing. But my name in there was Zhou Yu, and then my year of birth. And it was... I just kept following him, where you like a sports team a little bit because somebody introduced it to you, and then all of a sudden you just grew into like a super fan for that team.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty much what happened with Zhou Yu for me. And that's basically what got me into WoW. That's why I like WoW as much as I do. And then I started to like all their other characters, Zhou Tai, and you'll see another one in a second when we go to the runner-ups. Hint, hint. But that's how I became so infatuated with what is genuinely a minor faction in this game. So, runner-up.
Alright, so my runners-up, I have quite a few, actually. I do have Jia Chong, so you are technically right. He is mentioned in this video. Zhang Wei. I love Zhang Wei. Liu Bei, Guan Yu, Zhou Tai, believe it or not, and Cao Cao.
Okay. A good list.
Hmm. And
I
what
like
about
that.
yours?
Mine, I could have gone all day, and I decided that I would sacrifice length for a little bit of an explanation for this next one. My runner-up is Ganning. Ganning is,
Oh,
for
he's
me,
badass.
he is such a badass, you know? Like, I feel like I picked my favorite characters based on, like, cliche stars in my eyes, looking at people I wanna like replicate in the future, because he just seemed like the ultimate badass, you know? This pirate guy, I loved his weapon. Not really the ball and chain thing he did,
Right. Mhm.
but I liked the chain and sickle.
Yeah.
I thought that was such a fun weapon to use. Not really the best, but it was so much fun to use. And his like character, his feud with Ling Tong, like it was so deep. It wasn't just them competing. It was Gan Ning killed Ling Tong's father, and then they have to work together, and then all of a sudden they're best friends.
Yup.
And then Gan Ning, his death. I don't know how much they go into it in the game, but he was killed. He was shot by Shamok when Shu invaded after they killed Guan Yu. And, you know, he rode off into the sunset, limped under a tree, and just sat there and passed away. Like, he's such a badass, like a hero.
Yeah.
You know, and he was one of the few characters in the entire story of the hundreds of characters in that book that got, like, a real, genuine hero ending.
Right.
And I'm like, I love this guy. Automatically one of my favorites all time. Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're a former pirate, you're awesome. So.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And he's not one of those Somalian punks. He's a genuine He's like Blackbeard's ancestor.
Exactly. Alright, so what do you think we should start off with next?
I gotta save song for the end, because, I mean, oh man, that's like the grand finale with you.
I know.
So we'll go into favorite battle. It's only fair. What's your favorite battle?
My favorite battle is, I know I'm gonna butcher this, but you guys already knew that, is the Battle of Chebois, or Chibi. I really love the Battle of Chibi. I think that it is such a, like, it's such a significant battle. I mean, you know, you have Cao Cao who just keeps on taking control of, you know, the north area, and he finally decides to move south. And, you know, even in Wu is like deciding, do we surrender to Cao Cao or do we keep fighting? And, you know, Shu, the very little resistance they have to offer, you know,
They're like a pit bull in the corner, yeah.
Exactly, and they say we have to stand up to him.
No,
and
definitely a make or break point in the story. This was like the climax of the story.
Right, and the fact that they actually emerge victorious, and Cao Cao is this is one of Cao Cao's, I think his like worst, probably was his like worst loss.
Yeah, his invasion of Russia, pretty much.
Basically, and the fact that Wu and Shu were able to win, I think was just such an awesome battle.
And yeah, it really was. It kind of, you know how we both like Zhuge Liang, Zhou Yu. They put their brains together. They did not have the numbers, but the plots they came up with, like the whole story, they had been coming up with these really genius plots that you don't really see in Western stories. You know, it's usually brawn versus brawn.
Right.
But here they're fighting with these awesome techniques. I mean, you got Zhou Yu, or Zhuge Liang collecting all the arrows by getting the Wei soldiers to shoot at some barrels of hay they thought were troops. Like, the whole time, they had their number. Zhou Yu got their ships to get linked together, or Peng De gets introduced as a genius. He gets the ships linked. We got, like, this giant fire that destroys Cao Cao's fleet. It's kind of like a combination of, I don't know how much Western military history, you know, but kind of like, you know, the invasion of Russia, a terrible mistake that destroyed Cao Cao's forces, and kind of like the Battle of Trafalgar, you know, where they destroy his entire navy.
Yeah, that's true.
He kind of was like a Napoleon that got double gangbanged by Wu and Shu.
Yep.
And I only draw on this so much because, funny enough, and I think this will be the only one in the series, that's my favorite as well.
Really?
Trigger was absolutely my favorite battle. Zhou Yu got to shine. Wu got to shine in general. My favorite faction. This was really their moment. This is probably the only reason they were really, like, put in the game. They might have just been a minor faction if it wasn't for this. Made me appreciate Sun Quan a little bit. I loved Sun Jian. I was like, come on, Sun Jian, why couldn't you just, like, sacrifice one of your kids or something, man?
I know. Sun Quan had a lot to live up to, and he did in this battle, being a leader.
He
So,
went from kind of like a Liu Shan, you know, to like a
yes.
bona fide leader that could stand up to Cao Cao.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So what were your runners-up?
My runner-up, I chose like a combo, kind of, because this was a cool little story for me. The Battle of Hefei, where Zhang Liao tore into Sun Quan's forces, was awesome.
Yeah. That actually
Nate
is
Zhang
really...
Liao's such a badass, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He had no chance. And then that leads me into my other one where it makes Gan Ning a badass, and it's the Battle of, I can't pronounce this either. I'm terrible at Mandarin as well. Rujuko, I think, or something like that. The games go into it a little bit. I think there is a Battle of Rujuko in most of the games, since like Gan Ning was introduced in Dynasty Warriors 4, where Gan Ning takes like a couple hundred troops or something like that up against Cao Cao's like 100,000. This really exaggerated story where he goes in, kills like thousands of Cao Cao's men in a raid to kind of avenge Hefei, and doesn't lose a single man.
Wow.
And I'm
awesome.
like, what a badass Gan Ning. It was like the ultimate martial badass. There was no ultimate treachery or trickery. The characters were just at like full potential. Look at what I can do. And Sun Quan, the famous quote where Sun Quan said, Cao Cao might have Zhang Liao, but at least I have Jingba, which was the surname or the nickname, I guess, that Gan Ning had.
That's awesome.
I'm in love with that. So what is your runner-up battle?
I have 3. Battle of Fawn Castle was one of them.
Absolutely.
You know,
that was borderline on my list as well.
Right. I mean, such a great battle. I mean, you have so much happening. I mean, you have Shu that was actually... They were actually able to break the siege, and then once Wu came in, they were obviously forced back. I mean, Battle of Fawn Castle was just such a significant battle in the Three Kingdoms era.
Mm-hmm.
Then I have Battle for Chengdu, which is in Dynasty Warriors 8. When Sima Zhao makes his two like, you know, factions in his army, and they have them attack, or I don't really know how to explain it, but basically his 2 like major units, and he has one attack like Hanzhong and the other attack the capital, and the music that plays and the fact that you actually take over Shu and Liu Shan surrenders, I think is just such a cool thing, and so I think the Battle of Chengdu was really awesome. And then my last one is I don't know how to pronounce because this is actually French. It's coup d'état, or it's coup d'état?
Coup d'état.
Yeah, coup d'état. When Sima Yi rebels against Wei and completely takes over the capital, I think that battle is so awesome.
Yeah, it's unique. It's something that you hadn't really seen in Dynasty Warriors before.
Exactly. I mean, just seeing these people, like, care so much about the future that they're willing to, like, attack their own people is just... it's just so cool. So
yeah, some of the most interesting parts of histories are revolutions and taking over the government.
Exactly.
I agree. That is a pretty cool moment. Doesn't do justice that Koi doesn't really make any Wei characters like important that late in the game.
I know.
They make Jin just be this powerhouse of new characters.
Right.
And then the rest of the playing field is like dead. Everybody's like 800 years old. Zhao Yun is gone. Like they're all just dead.
I know.
But
all right, what is next on the list?
what is next on the list? I guess we've got 2 more. We got 2 more selections to go through.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably go through cutscene first.
Sure. All right. My favorite cutscene is actually Sun Tzu's death from Dynasty Warriors 7.
And just where have you been?
I saw what you did. You've grown into quite the warrior. Even a sudden attack can't shake your resolve.
Brother.
I have been a lucky man. I've had you, Shangxiang, and Zhou Yu by my side. I wanted to fight more with you all, to build the land we all dreamed of. Sun Tzu! You're... I wish I could have had more time. But it looks like my time is over.
The first time, by the way, I love Wu, but I'd have to say on the list, like, it goes for me, like, from my favorite to my least favorite is Jin, Shu, Wei, and Wu. Although I still love Wu. When I first saw,
man, I get it.
when I first saw Sun Tzu's death in Dynasty Warrior 7, I actually cried. It was one of the saddest cutscenes I've ever seen, and it was so emotional. And the fact that Sun Tzu, right there in his dying moment on the battlefield, was passing on his leadership to Sun Quan was just so. It was just so shocking, and I think this cutscene is just. It's so good because like. They make you like love Sun Tzu at that very moment. Like you're just like, oh my god, I can't believe he's going. Like
yeah, exactly. This character that had like maybe like what 3 or 4 battles,
right?
Like one epic moment taking over the Wuzhong Plains or something like not Wuzhong Plains, just Wu in general.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he's dead, and you're like, wait, I actually really care about this guy. What happened?
Exactly. And so that cutscene has such a huge place in my heart because it's just it's so great. So, what about yours?
My favorite has to do a little bit with all my other favorites. Of course, it's Wu. Of course, it's got Zhou Yu involved, but very minor as Zhou Yu involved. It's Sun Quan at the Battle of Chirba when he decides that he's going to war against Cao Cao.
Surrender. Alliance. Both options are reasonable, I think. But I have faith in Wu. Faith in you all. Therefore, I must think of our future. We will fight! We will join forces with Liu Bei and defeat Cao Cao! From now on, any who suggest surrender will share in this desk's fate!
He decides he's going to stand up, and he makes his decision in front of a crowd of people, and he cuts the table in half. He cuts up Cao Cao's demand for surrender. And he's like, we're gonna fight! You know, it kind of reminded me of like Mel Gibson standing out like, they can take our land, but they can't take our freedom! That's kind of what I was seeing there. I was, especially since I'm a little Zhou Yu fanboy, and Zhou Yu was the one pushing for war, like, yeah, you know, come on, I could take him.
Exactly. That's true.
Love that scene. I love that scene. But so, what's your runner-up? Where do you consider to be? I'm sure you've got several runners-up.
Yeah, I have 3 of them. Believe it or not, Liu Bei's death and Cao Cao's death in Dynasty Warrior 7 as well also had so much emotion in it. And it's so odd because Dynasty Warriors 7 I feel like was the most emotional in terms of cutscenes, but Dynasty Warriors 8 like wasn't. It's interesting. It's still sad, but it's not as emotional, and that's something I can appreciate in Dynasty Warriors 7. It's very emotional, and it makes everything feel so real. You feel connected with the characters. So their death scenes are they're so sad, but they're my favorites. And then there's actually one, believe it or not, Lu Meng's attack on Fan Castle with Guan Yu in Dynasty Warriors 3.
We must fight Guan Yu.
I am my own opponent? This will be difficult.
Ha!
Now it's really interesting because in Dynasty Warriors 3, when you pick the character you want to play, you ride beside them in the cutscene. You ride beside Lu Meng, and Lu Meng goes, "We have to defeat Guan Yu." So if you play as Guan Yu in that battle, Guan Yu's riding up against Lu Meng, and Lu Meng's like, "We have to defeat Guan Yu," and Guan Yu goes, "Well, it will be difficult to defeat myself." And I just love that cutscene. I think it's so funny. And I mean, it's so sad because they don't like put a lot of comical things like that anymore. But I love that cutscene.
That's hilarious. That's really funny. I can picture that now. It's pretty sad because Guan Yu's actual death is really, really heart-wrenching. Especially with how angry Liu Bei gets. So to have them poke fun at it like that it's funny. It's a nice change of pace.
Exactly. I love it.
But my runner-up has to do with Guan Yu. And I picked all of my cutscenes based on Dynasty Warriors 7. It's what I was most comfortable with. Honestly, I didn't really pay that much attention to cutscenes before. I thought they were cool, but a lot of the older ones were kind of generic. And especially, I play a lot of Empires, and oh my god, those are the worst cutscenes. But my runner-up is when Guan Yu returns home.
Guan Yu! So he's really sided with Cao Cao. All right. You know, I always wanted to fight you one time.
Zhang Fei, perhaps another time, my friend.
What?
Guan Yu, prepare to die! Brother, at last I have found you.
Guan Yu.
My place is here, beside you, my lord and brother.
I knew it! I knew it! Our brother would never betray us! Deep down, I always knew that!
He fights with Cao Cao.
Oh
Liu Bei and
God.
Zhang Fei and Zhao Yun are like so confused. They think that Guan Yu's an enemy now, and then Guan Yu comes walking his horse over the hill, and they see him, and they get ready to fight him because they see an army of Wei soldiers behind him. And Zhang Fei yells out. He says, "I've always wanted to fight you." And then Guan Yu just looks at him, and says, "Not today, brother." And he just turns around and swipes a bunch of Wei soldiers, and they all go running. I think that's the coolest scene. 'Cause I love the brothers, the three brothers, and I love Shu. I do like Shu. Liu Bei's character annoys me a little bit. His benevolence is a little weird, but their relationship is just so... It's emotional. I do feel attached to them. So to watch that scene, I was like, wow,
That
this
scene's
is fucking cool.
Yeah, that scene's great, especially when Guan Yu, this massive a man, puts down his weapon and bows before Liu Bei, and he's like, "Finally, I've found you." It is very emotional.
Oh, yeah.
So,
All
all right.
We're on to favorite songs. Oh, boy.
Oh, I love this.
Let me guess your favorite song. The entire soundtrack of every Dynasty Warriors ever. Am I right?
Well, wow, that's it. So what's yours? No. Yeah, this section was very difficult for me. So I have a lot of runners up, but my favorite soundtrack my favorite soundtrack is Jin's introduction music from Dynasty Warriors 8. It really is just so... I mean, to have an instrumental song speak so many words is, like, really impressive. And that's what this soundtrack actually does for me. Because this soundtrack really describes Jin as just being this force that is determined to, like, you know, win the land over these other two competing armies. And I just love that. I love that Jin is... I love that it's not that Jin is, like, evil in a way, but they're willing to make sacrifices, as in, you know, because Sima Shi and Sima Yi executed many people that were dear to them because they thought that they might turn on them. And not that I can appreciate that, because I can't, but the fact that they were that determined to, like, make a better future for their people really just showed to me, you know, just how cool of an army they were, and that's why they're obviously my favorite army. But this soundtrack to me just describes, you know, determination and pain and just moving forward. And so what is your favorite soundtrack?
That was beautiful.
Thank
I am
you.
touched right now. Are you a musical reviewer? Because, man, that spoke to me in volumes. Mine, unfortunately, I'm not as eloquent when it comes to music. I really don't pay enough attention to titles. I just kind of listen to it and jam while I'm killing people. I'm like, yeah, this is some fun stuff. But there were two songs that stood out to me. My favorite being Force Field, which is the Dynasty Warriors 3.
That's a great soundtrack.
What is it, the intro song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cutscene. That's actually what I made my channel intro background music be. I just think it's kind of like the perfect badass song, you know? It kind
That's
of
true.
encompasses all of the cool Dynasty Warrior songs. I mean, if you had to describe all of them to somebody and say, hey, go listen to all these, I would just send them that one and be like, look, imagine this, but a little bit different for the entire time you're killing all those Chinese dudes. Like, I love that song.
Yeah,
I
that soundtrack's
absolutely
good.
loved it. And I'll go into my runner-up first, since I only have one, and I know you have seven.
I have a
I'll-
bunch, yeah.
I'll finish mine first. I'll make mine real quick. And mine is just, in general, the music that stood out to me was the Lu Bu themes. You know,
Yes.
that's the cliche, because, you know, it kicks on and you shit yourself. You're like, uh-oh, uh-oh. If
Yep.
I had to pick one, Dynasty Warriors 4 Lu Bu theme was the best. I think
Oh,
it's pretty
yes.
generally accepted.
Absolutely.
And when that song kicked on, especially because I feel personally that Lu Bu became a little underpowered as the games progressed.
Mm-hmm.
Es-
I agree.
But early in the game, especially when like the move set was a lot less diverse, you could do less damage in the amount of time. You know, you
Right.
kind of had to depend more on block or timing, and less about mashing and combos.
Right.
When that Lu Bu theme kicked on, and you were a little underpowered, brand new Sunjian or Liu Bei at the Battle of Hulao Gate, you just look up and you're like, ah, fuck. And you
Yep.
run, you know? You plot your chart of all the pots you're going to hit to get your health back, and you run and you pray and you fight.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It holds memories. The Lu Bu theme, when that kicks on, is... Whew, still gives me nightmares.
Absolutely.
What is your barrage of runners for this category?
So I actually have one song from every Dynasty Warriors going from Dynasty Warriors 4 to 8. And then I have 3 Dynasty Warriors 8 songs, so I have a little bit. From Dynasty Warriors 4, my favorite song is Eve. It's just really kick-ass, really upbeat. I really like it a lot. From Dynasty Warriors 5, I can't pronounce it. It's called like Dance Macabre or something like that. It's really good. Dynasty Warriors 6 is Genius's Sanctuaries, and that is a really underrated song. From Dynasty Warriors 7, my favorite soundtrack is Resolution. Most people say it's Zhuge Liang's theme song, or it should be named, and I totally agree with that. And then from Dynasty Warriors 8, I have The Mountain, which is really good. That plays when you're playing as Huangzhong or Ma Chao when you're attacking Hanzhong. Dynasty Warriors 8, Trio the Barrel, which is the first soundtrack that plays in Dynasty Warriors 8 when you're using Liu Bei or Guan Yu or Zhong Fei in the Yellow Turban Rebellion. And then, which I have, and now this next song I have listened to on my iPod. It says 282 times. That's how much I like the soundtrack. And the fact that it wasn't my favorite, it was definitely like my second favorite, is Dynasty Warriors 8's Cyclonized Typhoon. I mean, this song is just kick-ass. It's just so awesome. It actually plays when you play as Zhang Liao in Hefei. And it is just such a great soundtrack.
Whew. Yeah. Like I said, all of the songs. No, it definitely. If you need to pick a favorite Dynasty Warriors song, you know who to talk to. You do. Obviously. At this point, if it's not obvious, it should be very obvious. But that actually concludes our list. Do you have any closing things to add to your favorites?
No, I think I'd say that's it. You know, again, this list was very difficult to make in the fact that again, there are so many favorite characters I wasn't able to mention, so many favorite soundtracks, believe it or not, that I wasn't able to mention. So yeah, so I think that's all I have to say. It was so much fun coming up with this list, but it was definitely difficult.
No, it really was. And if you guys actually have any favorites you'd like to share with us, of course, you can leave them below in the comments. And if you've got any questions for us, anything we missed, I don't know, favorite game, any questions you want us to answer, I'm sure we can cover in a future video. And we'll be publishing many of these videos in the future, hopefully.
Absolutely.
And I think that about wraps it up. I'd say.
Yep. I think we're good.
Well, take care.
Take care.